GoStop.
Where's movies, Isabella? Just for you.
I can see that. Look, I know
Anna and Elsa T.
Oh my god, we have to go there. Oh my gosh, I gotta take a picture of that.
Minion goggles. These goggles were designed by our own lovable and disturbingly old scientist, Dr. Navarro. After spending money on...
Oh, it's a water park?
Let's just hope he doesn't go down the aisle like last time.
Sounds like yet another clear violation of Performance Convention 1709. And again,
Lord Voldemort. The name alone strikes fear in good witches and wizards everywhere. And his hatred of muggles is widely known. But do not fear. You're well protected while here. I've personally cast a few enchantments and spells specifically intended to ensure your safety. But should you ever find yourself in danger, outside
excuse me, you reckon we should go on? If you stay much longer, you'll find yourself listening to Professor Binns go on about the history of Hogwarts.
Which, should be pointed out, is rather fascinating. One book I highly recommend, which is an absolutely riveting read, is Bathilda Bowshaw's Hogwarts.
Daily. Hi everybody, I'm Carson Daly from NBC's The Voice. I want to welcome you to the Universal Front Lot. Our show is filmed on stage 12. It happens to be the largest soundstage on the Universal lot. Take a look.
Something really cool is happening at stage 12. So we're gonna have Mike do a little VIP excursion here. We're gonna turn left, regular studio tour turns right, because we want to show you the inside through those doors. Do you guys see that they're setting up in there right now? We're loading in big pieces of equipment, cameras, microphones, even some lights. We're getting ready for the battlegrounds for season 11 of The Voice. So we recently filmed the blind auditions. Now the battlegrounds are gonna happen. Miley Cyrus and Alicia Keys are joining Blake Shelton and Adam Levine for the 11th season. So who knows, they might be here on the lot today filming. How many of you have seen The Voice on NBC? Yeah, quite a few. It's a really popular reality competition show. Off to our left, we also have some other types of buildings. You're going to see the Hitchcock Theater, the Alfred Hitchcock Theater. You're also going to see the Henry Mancini Sound Building in just a moment. Now, what these buildings are is they're mostly for editing. Editing is basically anything that happens after filming. It's the post-production, the phase after production, after filming. It's when we add in sound, it's when we splice up our clips, put them together, reorder them, add our visual effects, retouch the film, really make the film ready for an audience to view it. And in the Alfred Hitchcock Theater, which I just pointed out, directors like Steven Spielberg, as well as Peter Jackson and other huge Hollywood directors review their movies. So as the movie is being edited and worked on, the directors come to the lot and take a look at it to make sure it looks like they want it to. Looks like we have our farmers market going on. We do a weekly farmers market here at the Universal lot. The reason for that is because we're not just a film studio, we're our entire...
I recognize Brownstone Street from this Jim Carrey movie on your screen.
Raise the door! Like that. Outside good. Like that. Outside good. Oh, you're done now.
So how many of you guys saw that movie, Bruce Almighty? Yes, believe it or not, that scene was shot outside, inside, all over the place. But the most recognizable set that we have here on our lot, one of the most iconic, we're turning the corner, you guys can see it right over there. And John is actually going to take us on another VIP excursion on this very famous set. I'll let him tell you what it is in case you don't recognize it, because this is a fun reveal. All right, guys, grab your camera.
Who can tell me where we are right now? Back to the Future, that's right. This is Hill Valley, California, from the Back to the Future franchise. Of course, starring Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. So this is the original clock tower set. This is what you saw in the movie. Pretty crazy, right? How many of you have seen Back to the Future? Right? A lot. It's a hugely successful Universal franchise. Originally, they weren't even gonna film here. That whole final scene with the clock tower and the lightning bolt, and Marty McFly driving his DeLorean 88 miles an hour down that road. that was going to take place at a nuclear power plant somewhere else in Southern California. But the budget for the movie got cut. The reason for that, the reason they didn't have much money to spend to rent out a whole nuclear power plant, is because Michael J. Fox was not the original actor cast in the role as Marty McFly. They filmed for about 3 weeks here, all around the lot, with a different guy named Eric Stoltz. But he just wasn't getting it right. You can actually watch some of the footage of Eric Stoltz on YouTube. They've done documentaries about it, on the special footage at the end of the movie on the DVD. So they filmed for about 3 weeks. He just wasn't getting it right. It just wasn't working. He's a really good actor, great dramatic actor. He just wasn't getting the comedy that they wanted for Marty McFly. So they did something we almost never do here. After a month of filming, they recast the main role, and they had to refilm everything. A whole month down the drain. Millions of dollars down the drain. So what they decided to do, Robert Zemeckis, the director of that film, was here at Universal. He has a bungalow on the lot. And he was walking around on his lunch break, sort of pacing, figuring out how are we going to make this work? How are we going to cut costs and make things easier on us? And he saw this set, and he was like, you know what? Let's just move that nuclear power plant scene, that huge explosive scene, here to the back lot and have a bolt of lightning, you know, hit the lightning pole. And, you know, the rest is history. We'll show you that clip once we get back on the trolley. But that's a story I like to tell here because it's pretty rare that that happens. And we're glad it happened because Back to the Future worked. Something about Christopher Lloyd, something about Michael J. Fox, their chemistry, it just was perfect. And they're a great Universal duo. Now, this building was not just used as the clock tower set, but it was also seen in Gremlins. In fact, they filmed here in July, but everybody was wearing big winter coats because it took place on the East Coast in the winter, and there was fake snow. What else filmed here? The Twilight Zone filmed its first ever episode in the 1950s here. This was the courthouse where Atticus Finch works, or Gregory Peck works, and To Kill a Mockingbird. And the movie Inherit the Wind was filmed here as well. The list goes on and on. Most recently, we filmed Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping, the Lonely Island film with Andy Samberg and Sarah Silverman. That just came out last month, filmed right here. Episodes of Key and Peele on Comedy Central. And Saving Mr. Banks, the Disney movie from 2013, I believe, was filmed right here. Actually, the camera was sort of where we're standing, and they filmed that way. Made it look like turn of the century Australia, believe it or not. So you never know what you're gonna get here. All right, so I just give you a big list of stuff that's filmed here, but the reason we stop here and get off the trolley is so that we can get some photos of you guys in front of this set. So follow me this way, and we'll take some group photos for anyone who wants one. To tell you about this set, we have a huge Back to the Future fan up here. You may have noticed this. The clock tower looks a little bit different today than it did in the film. It is the original clock tower set, I promise. But in this center third area, we've placed a brick facade over the pre-existing facade. A facade in front of a facade, so that people don't recognize this set as just the clock tower set. But if you want to follow me up the stairs, we can peek in and see that original front of this set. So follow me this way.
Yeah.
So you can peek in, just don't go past these doors, okay? Just reach your, peek your head in. And you'll also maybe be able to see over here, once you peek inside, that the inside looks a whole lot different than what you might expect it to. Anytime they go inside of this building, like they did in Kill a Mockingbird. Sorry, the name escaped me for a second.
It's crazy.
So when I get close to this, it looks tiny, right? But if I were here, you would never know that this is built on what we call a forced perspective. A lot of these sets look much smaller in real life than they do on camera. Have you ever heard the expression, the camera adds 10 pounds? Because that's true for our actors and our sets. Seriously, we film with wide-angle lenses. That makes everything look bigger than it actually is. You might notice that throughout the tour today, that things are going to look smaller. Here. Oh. Here we are, New York. There you go. We have our own Plaza Hotel. Across the street, we have our own Macy's department store. We even have our own Radio City Music Hall. You'll see it better later, but it's that building over there with the marquee and the lights up. This area was totally rebuilt in 2008. So this is our newest backlot location, and it's definitely our most filmed on, I should say. Transformers, directed by Michael Bay. The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. Captain America, First Avenger. Popstar, that movie I mentioned earlier with Andy Samberg, just filmed out here. Recently, an episode of American Ninja Warrior, filmed right down the street. They put that big obstacle course up and down New York State. These sets stand 50 feet tall, but because they're built on a first perspective, they look bigger. The windows up top are very small, so to our eye, it looks like they're further away. These buildings are taller than they actually are. Just a little Hollywood magic out here. Taylor Swift recently filmed her music video Wildest Dreams here. The second half was done right here on this street. She runs out of this theater across the way, gets in a car and drives off. It takes place in the 1930s on Hollywood Boulevard. Why didn't we just film on the real Hollywood Boulevard? It's like 10 minutes away. Well, Hollywood Boulevard looks like it's in 2016 now, right? Much easier to dress up a set rather than take away pieces from a real neighborhood, a real city. And all we have to do are add props out here. Things our actors hold, touch, move, drive. Anything that's not bolted down to the ground, nailed down to the ground, is a prop. It could be as small as a paperclip or as large as a taxi cab. We'll talk more about props later when we take it through the prop warehouse.
Right over here, guys. Alright guys, so stay with the group. We are going to walk around together. But once again, we're going to ask you to do the same thing as before. Don't touch anything or sit on the furniture, because this is all stuff that's actively being used or has just been used. You might recognize this throne from Snow White and the Huntsman. This is where Charlize Theron sat. They just also rented this out for Sci-Fi's Face Off. If you guys have ever seen that show, it's a makeup competition. They used both the candelabras here and the throne. And basically the way our prop department works, it's kind of like a gigantic warehouse filled with library items. So everything has a barcode, everything is organized, categorized. These guys over here work really hard to keep it all that way. And as a production designer, you'd come in here, you decide what you want to use for your production, you put a hold tag on it, which if you guys see that bright yellow square of paper that's on the chair right there, that's a great example of a hold tag. It'll say, I'm coming to pick this up. You bring your truck around to the loading dock, you load it up with whatever you want, you start setting up and you start filming. So let me hop in front of you guys real quick.
The remake. Right next door you'll see Magnum PI's Ferrari. Stunt car driven just by Tom Selleck's mustache. We've got the convertible Biff car from Back to the Future, once filled with manure. You guys might remember that scene. Bunch of these awesome Back to the Future cars. Of course, the very first eco-friendly cars ever created. Zero emissions, just operated by foot power. And obviously, we're not going to talk about picture cars and not mention Fast and Furious. So take a look at these awesome cars, you guys. Now, unfortunately, these cars are hiding a terrible secret under the hood. Most of them are completely empty. They're just fiberglass shells. We have to make them light enough so we can flip them around, set them on fire, crash them into the side of buildings and nobody gets hurt. We've also got two of our most recent additions here. We've got a Jeep Wrangler Sahara and the gyrosphere from Jurassic World. But something's missing from our gyrosphere. What is it, guys? The glass, yes. The sphere of the gyrosphere is not there, right? Well, the reason it's not there, it's very difficult to film rounded glass like that because you'll get all those reflections of the background, whatever is in the background. So they added that in later on. Another great example of movie magic is our tank right there, made entirely out of plywood. That's right. Just painted to look like metal. But at the drop of a hat, that bad boy could be blown up into bits. It would look pretty amazing. Now going back to Fast and Furious for just a second, did you guys know that that franchise is so popular, they have already said yes, start filming for 9 and 10, and 8 is already done with principal photography. So they're going into the editing phase now. So 8, 9, and 10 coming soon. Get ready. And the way that Joey does it, we have these big overhead sprinkler systems. They shoot the water up in the air, it falls naturally back down to earth, and looks fantastic on camera. That's all it takes. Gravity. All right, Joey, baby, let's go ahead and cut that range. We're gonna go on to part 3. Joey, go ahead and cut the range. Ready for part 3? Joey? Joey, go ahead and cut the range. Oh gosh. Okay. There might not be anybody up there, guys. Sometimes Joey's on a break, so I'm sure it's no big deal. Just more rain than we wanted today. So we'll just take some photos. Oh my gosh. Whoa, way too much rain, you guys. Hang on tight. Oh no. Flash flood. Oh no! I had no idea that would happen. Alright guys, let's give it up for imaginary Joey. There's no one up there. Sorry, we lied to you. John and I are just fabulous actors, so we like to play tricks on you all the time. Here's what that flash flood looks like. A big fat liar.
Police about giving the beach one last home over, making sure it's safe for us to go for a late evening swim. Hey Felicia, how you doing? Good to see you too. Felicia, here's my question for you. You want to come say hi to my guests? Wait a minute. Something swimming around, Felicia. Yes, I didn't see a fin. Is that a... Oh no, I think a shark is out there, you guys. Blood and guts everywhere. All right, bye, Felicia. Let's continue on. We'll hide behind these danger high voltage signs and some flammable gasoline tanks. I mean, what could possibly go wrong here, huh? I left that yellow barrel out there as bait. Maybe the shark will take the bait. Yeah, he's taking the bait, but he snapped the gasoline line. Uh-oh. I don't think this is well. On a day like today? Thanks, John. Very kind. Let's get out of here. I don't want you all to be eaten alive. We'll distract ourselves here at Whoville from Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. To build all of Whoville, we used 10 sound stages on the Universal lot. We used an 11th sound stage just as a big dressing room for our extras or background actors. Put those Who's in their costume, wigs, and makeup. We also used 2 million linear feet of styrofoam and enough fake snow to cover 9 football fields. It was a massive undertaking here at Universal, but it paid off. It's one of our biggest holiday hits to date, if not the biggest holiday film in the world. This is a real Boeing 747 airplane off to your left. We purchased it at an airplane graveyard in the Mojave Desert and shipped it here to Hollywood in 4 different parts. This is modeled after a real neighborhood in New Jersey where we filmed the before shots. Then we came here once the airplane crashed down to the after shots. Here's a clip from that movie with Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning.
Right here, the airplane crash site set is a perfect example of a set that is all designed around a vision that Stephen had. When we first began to sit down and talk about War of the World, I thought, what if the 747 goes down right in a big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
This movie filmed here for only 3 days, and this set only appeared on that film for 3 minutes. But it took about 3 months to build this set and multiple millions of dollars. I know that sounds crazy, but you gotta keep in mind, most films have huge budgets, and a Steven Spielberg film is gonna have a massive budget. So if he wants to build an airplane crash